Yes, it finishes on an A. VK3SL. Here we are again, Friday night test transmission on 160 metres and 2 metres. And for those who are inclined, can tune in to the streaming service, which can be found on the QRZ page. Anyhow, back here again. This is it, another Friday. It's, as per usual, mad rush. I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't, these 12-hour days. I started work at 7 this morning and I finished just after 7 this evening. So I need to retire, I think. Well, I've not been out in this room for quite some days, so I had to battle with the cobwebs and try and remember what buttons to push and how to tune things up. So this is about the only thing I do in the booth at the moment. But anyhow, I'm slowly getting my mind around it all. And I think I've got a 2078 here. Quickly grab one off the shelf and we'll have a listen to, I think it might be Sam Lannon or one of those A&R bands. But yeah, we'll hear Who Knows. I quite enjoy these gongs. We'll keep the gongs going. VK3SL.
Slowly fade away. Your love came to me like a butterfly and slowly faded like a rose. Perhaps oft times you wonder why and laugh or cry, who knows?
Just got there in time. All right, I better get that off the turntable, find out what it was. Whoa, record's skidding around here. We'll lift it up. This is one of these records where the hole's too big and it sort of floats around and you've got to position it with great care. Well, that was the Parlophone Melodians, whoever they were, probably Ben Sylvan. Who knows? Well, that's probably the title that sets the scene for this evening. What's the other side? Keep sweeping the cobwebs off the moon. Oh, this is the one when they sing out of tune. Oh, this is quite fun, actually. I might see how we go. Have a listen to Ernie Golden and his orchestra, mid about 1928. And, yeah, we'll see. You'll hear the vocal chorus. We're not quite in sync on this record, but it's quite sort of... I think we played it before, but who cares? We'll put it on the table, square it up, It is a real swinger. Ernie Golden. This is VK3SL.
Turn them into gay skies and keep sweeping the cobwebs off the moon, silvery moon. What good is your pining? Find your silver lining and keep sweeping the cobwebs off the moon. You'll make the clouds hurry away, humming a love song. Some lucky day, somebody may come along. Da-da-da-da-da, chase all of your sorrow. Take care of tomorrow and keep sweeping the cobwebs off the moon.
That frequency-restricted 20s compressed sound. That was Ernie Golden and the orchestra from about 1928. This is VK3SL, where we like to play original recordings, authentic experience. We're playing 78s to air, all in the name of testing. The transmitter is here and the associated equipment, all the processing equipment, and the desk. And there's a lot here, actually. There's a lot crammed, shoehorned into this little room. And a lot of thermal mass, I suppose. But, of course, it's also for people to test their receivers. They can listen far and beyond and see how things actually transpire. Well, in the name of authenticity, I've actually got one of my own here. Someone made a nice comment about my transfer of Constantinople this week. I got a very rare for me to get a message on YouTube, but someone seemed to like this. So I had to go through my list. I put about 200 or 300 78s up. Oh, gosh, a while ago. And, why isn't this mouse working? Oh, there it is. Yeah, so this was probably about 18 months ago. So I've dredged through them. I found the recording of Constantinople and see what people think. So we'll hear Johnny Hamp and his Kentucky Serenaders from 1928, Constantinople.
C-O-N-S-T-A-N-T-I-N-O-P-L-E. C-O-N-S-T-A-N-T-I-N-O-P-L-E.
That was Constantinople with Johnny Hamp. It did sound like we're listening through a snowstorm, I'm afraid, but that's my thing about not filtering out any of the top end, just sort of letting it propagate with all of the imagined overtones. I think the noise can have a psychoacoustic effect. That's the theory anyhow. Well, what else? I just found something else to slap on the turntable. I prefer playing Real 78s. We've got turntable set up here. There's a modest collection of records to mine, and why not just play the real thing? So we'll do a bit more. I'll see what's happening here in the... I have to check. I can't even remember what I put on. Well, maybe I'll just put a little identi on, and then I'll go over and have another look. This is VK3SL, testing on 160 metres, 2 metres, and the Broadwave stream. Yes, the Broadway and Nightlights with You're a Real Sweetheart. Yes, the Broadway Nightlights and You're a Real Sweetheart on a Columbia. We're playing a few Columbia laminated records tonight. And that's one I haven't listened to before. I don't think I've even put that one up on YouTube, but late 20s. Found a Peggy Cochrane record here too on a Broadcast 12. Now, interesting artist. And she made some Pathé films, I think. Pretty sure she did. I've seen her. Anyhow, she's here, and we might as well have a listen. I think she's doing some selections from Wonderbar with a dance band accompaniment, so it's all very sort of 30s. It's got a 30s ambience about it, I suppose. So what do I do? I've got another ident, so I can get over and get myself organised. So this is VK... Oh, no, don't need to say that. I can let the ident spell it all out. This is VK3SL, testing on 160 metres, 2 metres, and the Broadwave streaming service. Yeah, we just heard some of the music of Peggy Cochran, who was an English pianist, and I think she played violin and vocal as well, composed a lot of music. In fact, she probably arranged that particular recording. She features in a number of films as well, and so she's well represented on celluloid and plenty of recordings of Peggy Cochran kicking around, mainly on those broadcast records from the 30s. So that was about 1934, I think, but very pleasant, great player, very great authority in her music there. Yeah, so it's good to sort of discover someone. We'll have a Peggy Cochran evening and dig up some more. I think I've got her playing the Grieg minor concerto somewhere here. Well, good to hear her play the violin. All right, let's see what else. I'm going into Prozoot land now. I'm going to sort of try and find the mouse goes to sleep on this thing. I'm going to tap the bench. It's got a very small arrow. Maybe I should get a bigger arrow, and then I can follow things a bit better. And I can probably change the lighting a little bit here as well. So, excuse me, rambling here. We're just sort of trying to get things in order. Oh, now this is good news. This is really good news, folks, because Mr. Prozoot has found some Boswell sisters and issued them, including an unissued test. Now, this is great because I'm used to hearing Boswell sisters in fairly muffled mission sound. So here we have something that, you can get some idea of what they sounded like with a full range, full frequency range. Not quite, but yeah, it gives more of a suggestion than what we've had before. I did have a sample of this earlier in the week, and it's very impressive. So, yeah, there's a couple of them here. We'll have a listen to the first one, which is That's What I Like About You. That's from 1930. It's on a Victor. Bit of an interesting story. In fact, Mr. Prozoot provides quite a tale here. He talks about the Victor Studios and what's happened to them, the Hollywood Victor Studios, where this is recorded. And he says the building's still there. And there's a number of interesting anecdotes about his association with the building, because he was a photographer, Mr. Prozoot. And he had some close association. I'm trying to find it now, but I haven't got my spectacles on. Let's see. Where was it say? Many years ago, the orange drive in the building was converted into a picture frame shop that I used to frequent. This is Prozoot. One day, I was standing in the showroom chatting with the owner of the frame shop, and I asked him if he was aware that the building was once a part of RCA. He laughed and he told me that when he was 18 years old, back in the 1940s, he got a job pressing records in exactly the spot where we were standing. He said the fumes from the molten shellac were so strong and sickening that he lasted only 1 week and had to quit. The nauseating job is not something we think about when we're enjoying big Spider-Big 78s. Okay, this is the West Coast Hollywood Studios, and he talks more about the Hollywood sound, the West Coast Hollywood sound. I commend it. Have a listen. Have a read, folks. It's quite a lot there. Mr. Prozoot's getting a little bit more verbose these days. Well, let's have a listen to something recorded in those studios features the music of Jackie Taylor and his orchestra and the Boswell sisters on an unissued test. This is VK3SL testing.
Do when the doing is done.
playboy with nothing to do, gentle and temperamental with nothing to do, just a little different than anyone I ever knew. Everything you do is swell, what you do so well. You, yes, a little, know a little, that's what I like about you.
Well, that was something else. Well, I'll just fade out there. Yeah, we heard the Boswell sisters and an unissued test. Now, that just sounded spectacular on the speakers in here, on the leek sandwiches. It's so tight and it had plenty of bass and it was a really good, well, as good a sound as I've heard from 78s from that period. It was terrific. So, an unissued test with the Boswell sisters, early days. They made a lot of records after that. So 1930 is fairly early in their vocab, their discography, I think. I can't say that with authority, but I usually would associate them with a slightly later period. But there's another one, and that's going to be hard to find because it's in the middle of a playlist. Let's say, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put on the track before, which is with Lee Harline, and that is Looking for the Love Light in the Dark. And then straight after that is the Boswell Sisters on We're on the Highway to Heaven. That's a great record. That's from 1930 as well. So, yeah, both recordings feature the Hollywood, recorded in the Hollywood studios and RCA studios with Jackie Taylor's orchestra. And it's a great picture of the studios here on Mr. Prozoot's site. This is a find. This is great material. So I might go in and get myself a cup of tea and I'll let two tracks right out for this next little bit. So VK3SL, I'm testing, of course, no entertainment whatsoever is allowed. You are to be very po-faced and look down at the ground and get your pad out and write down the technical details and say what a terrible transmission, how much distortion I've got, how I really should be doing something else, which you're probably right, and yes, give me all that really bad feedback. So, and then, of course, test out your equipment as well. So that's how it should be. VK3S.
Looking for the love light in the dark. Some kiss has to kindle the flame with. Looking for the love light in the dark.
should fill the evening air. Or if it's daughters or daughters, we'll never care. We'll weather together, looking for the love light in the dark.
your way. You're going my way. We're on the highway to heaven. Ba-da-da-da. We're on the blue road. We're on the new road. We're on the highway to heaven. Ba-da-da-da. You know we can't go wrong while love we bring along. We'll make us sing a song. We're gonna swing along that bright sunny skyway. Your way is my way. We're on the highway to heaven.
Well, that's pretty spectacular, actually. I like it. Are you going to fade it? No, sorry. We'll save up the rest of Jackie Taylor for another time. And yeah, we heard some Boswell sisters, probably at towards the start of their career or their recording career. And two items there amidst one other track, Looking for the Love Light in the Dark. That was the first one we heard, and then we were on the Highway to Heaven, that last one we just finished with then, featuring the Boswell sisters, Martha, Vet and Connie. Okay, well. Gonna have a bit of jazz now. I'm particularly interested in Joe Venuti and Eddie Lang, and I stumbled upon this today. So have a listen to both of them. Joe Venuti, I think, is a real pioneer in the violin. I think he was doing interesting things, very inventive solos. He had a real interest. He had sort of quite an elaborate, embroidered use of phrasing, and he sort of moved beyond the conventions, and probably was a bit of a groundbreaker, as was Eddie Lang. The chords he plays are very extended and very much in the jazz idiom. He probably is the father of jazz guitar. I think people will testify to that. I remember talking to Ken about Eddie Lang, who thought he was a very important figure. Anyhow, both of them together were in many bands in the 20s, mostly in the under the orbit of Mr. Whiteman, and it's probably under that guise that they made this record together. So it's a recording called Doing Things, and from 1928. This is VK3SL. How sweet is that? That was fantastic. Joe Venuti and Eddie Lang, Doing Things, 1928. I hadn't heard that before. And that was with Arthur Shute on the piano. And some really wonderful extended harmonies there. And it's just, it really set the scene for what happened in the ensuing decades, really. When you think that was recorded in 1928, it is very modern for that time. So, yeah, pretty impressive, really. Poor old Eddie Lang, he died on the operating table. He was having his tonsils out, I think. He bled to death, something terrible, and that was 1932. So great loss. But he did make many recordings in the right through the 20s, early 30s, and we're lucky to have him captured. Joe Venuti went on and on. He was recording right up into the 60s in various guises. I should dig up some of his later stuff too, but the material that interests me most is the records he made in the 20s, and the stuff he did with Whiteman, of course, all those Bix records. Now, last week we played some Mae West. We sort of did a bit of expose on Mae West. We played one of her early recordings from I'm No Angel, 1934, bit of a bio, and then we finished up with Twist and Shout from the Golden Throats album. Now, that was recorded when she was an old woman. She refused to go old, actually. She just absolutely refused. In fact, even to when she was 88 or 87, she had a young bodybuilder as a partner, and she just relished in being Mae West, and with no limitations whatsoever. She was a true maverick and a real life spirit, and a testimony to people who testimony to the fact that you can quite comfortably live in your own delusions. It doesn't matter. So, here's a recording of her singing the famous Doors song. This is from the 70s, a record of Mae West as an old woman in the 70s, singing Light My Fire.
You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a lie if I was to say to you, boy, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. The time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose, and our love become a flaming fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. Hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose, and our love become a flaming fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a lie if I was to say to you, boy, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. Try to set the night on fire. Try to set the night on fire. Oh, try to set the night on fire.
Where's the fire? Where's the fire?
In your eyes, big boy, in your eyes.
Oh, that's just incredible. What's that line of hers from Sextet? Is that a gun in your pocket? Are you pleased to see me? She said. Yes, Mae West. Look, there's some interesting photographs of Mae. Wonderful pictures. Of course, they're the famous hourglass figures from the 1930s with her in her tight-fitting costumes, but people don't realise that she was already middle-aged then. If you Google Mae West, that's M-A-E, Mae West in 1910, this Mae West 1910, there's some stunning pictures of her as a vaudeville artist, and you see her in a very different guise as a young person, and it's quite interesting to sort of those vamp pictures of Mae But to think that she was on the stage constantly, really from 1900 or early 1900s right through to, nearly to 1980. So, yes, extraordinary person. I think I'll have to feature more of Mae West. So, yeah, light my fire. Why not? Well, let's have a look. How can I change tack? How can I move on from that? Well, look, tomorrow there is the sort of something happening tomorrow, apparently. And I'm not very interested in politics. In fact, I stand right out of it. I don't even it's not my thing. But I did stumble on Mr. Cinepix put up a political advertisement from another time, so it doesn't sort of relate to anything today. So don't think I'm pushing an agenda. Nothing of the sort. This is time machine stuff. This is Wayback Machine. We're going back to 1974, and we'll have a listen to the cinema advert, which I think is quite characterful. So yes, if you're offended by this, I'm terribly sorry. VK3SL.
Whitlam has certainly given us many reasons to be proud of Australia and proud of the positive actions taken by his government. All Australians have gained a great deal from the far-sighted policies initiated by Labor since December 1972. Now, a small but important area that demonstrates Labor's vital and imaginative action is the motion picture industry. Thanks to Senator Douglas McClellan and the Department of the Media, for the first time since the 1930s, we now have a vital and healthy film industry. During 1974, more than 20 films are going to be made in Australia. Comedies, dramas, westerns, even a musical. Let's take a look at some of that action now. Graham Blundell as Alvin Purple is chased by angry husbands, parachutes into Melbourne's Yarra River, and generally has a whole lot of fun.
Marge, where's that bloody coffee?
Jack Thompson creates a very different impression as David Williamson's electrifying hero, Tony Peterson.
You? For my sake, come on, you silly little bastard. There was nothing in it. Get outside. Get outside, boys, get out. Get outside.
Certainly, that's all very exciting and important. And you're going to see many more films like that this year. But now, let's hear what the Prime Minister, Mr. Gough Whitlam, has to say.
In the 17 months that I've been Prime Minister, the Labor government has done its utmost to make this a country that stands on its own feet, to make Australians believe in themselves and in their nation. We're building new cities, developing new areas, creating new job opportunities. Business prospects have never been brighter. The film and entertainment industries are examples of how we are giving Australians the opportunity to build the kind of society in which they wish to live. The new Australia which we see emerging is vigorous and creative. We are now a pace-setting nation, and that's the way the rest of the world is beginning to see us. 1974 is the most exciting time to be an Australian.
For all of us in the entertainment industry, the key word is action. And for Gough Whitlam's government, action is the key word too. On May 18th, we'll be asked to make an important decision. So let's make sure that we give the Labour Party the go-ahead to put into action the job that they've already started.
If you really want to know what I think of politics, this is probably a better outcome. So I'll see you at the other end.
I had to, open the bruise up and let some of the bruise blood come out to show them. I had to, open the bruise up and let some of the bruise blood come out to show them. I had to, open the bruise up and let some of the bruise blood come out to show them. come out to show them, 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 come out come out to show them, come out to show Come on.
There's nothing like the music of Steve Reich to cleanse the soul. Steve Reich's Come Out from 1966, one of his first big phase products. So, yes, that's capitulated me into a different space, that's for sure. It's mesmerising to watch. There's a ballet thing that goes with that. Two artists who sit and facing each other doing these very robotic movements all through it. It must be incredibly exhausting, and to memorise such a wide range of actions in that sequence is something quite incredible. So if you do a search for Come Out with Steve Reich, you'll see these artists do this incredibly compelling ballet. Now, well, it's not ballet in the conventional sense at all. It's just a movement to the rhythms, with the phasing. All right. Well, at this point, I might just take an opportunity to remember Mr. Cox. Brian Cox passed away this week. He was someone who had enormous influence and supported me a lot in getting this whole booth up and running early days when I was getting going. I had quite a lot to do with Brian. Various guys, great storyteller, great raconteur, real spirit. And it was really sad to hear that he's passed away. I was really wanting to interview him and it didn't happen, and it's sort of, I lament that fact because he's someone who had so many stories. And many a time I'd sit there in his lounge room with the kids running around my feet while he came here, and he'd be full of tales and great sort of industry stories, which sort of captured my imagination. Of course, Brian was very involved with Radio Australia for a very long time. I was going to do a bit of a Radio Australia tribute, but all I could find was a few cuts. So let's just put this on for Brian. This is we'll let it let's have a listen.
The music is fine on Radio Australia.
Now, I think there's more where that came from. The cart's presently winding. I think it's got about 3 or 4 idents on this cart, so we'll find another one. And it hasn't stopped yet. The heads need a bit of a clean. I think this cart machine came from Brian. He was pulling apart, stripping down cart machines for the transformers and bits, and he handballed this one. Here we go. The stoplight's gone on, and we'll have another listen.
The music is fine on Radio Australia.
Okay, I wonder if I think there's another one here too. Let's try this.
The music is fine on Radio Australia.
For some reason I thought they were different, but they're not. There's a lot of idents. There's a box of carts that came from that source, but they're mostly in other languages, and mostly Indonesian. So there's not much use playing those. But anyhow, that's just a very, just a little tribute. In fact, look, there's some good Radio Australia material on the Crossband site, and I might have a little look through that and put something together. And I got some here from some acetate dubs here from something as well, which I might try and put together as a little bit of a compilation. I haven't had a chance this week, but we might revisit the early days of Radio Australia. So that's a thought. Anyhow, so that's remembering Mr. Cox, because he was a true live wire and a real spirit, that's for sure. And it's sad that he's gone. It's people like that you sort of think are going to live forever, and then when you hear that they're sick and then they die, it's sort of a bit of a shock. Gives you that existential pang. You sort of think, oh, we're all vulnerable. So yeah, a bit of a shame. Okay, all right. There's a few classical offerings. I'm not going to go terribly late tonight. I haven't really thought about this evening's program much, as you can tell. But, there's a colour film of Furtwängler, the year he died. This popped up, 1954. And he's conducting Don Giovanni's Overture in Salzburg, probably the Salzburg Festival. Now, Don Giovanni Overture by Mozart is just the most amazing music. It's fantastic. It's very dark. And Furtwängler is a genius. He's the one conductor, he's probably the greatest conductor of the 20th century, I think. He's one of these conductors who saw well beyond the notes and sort of saw music in its transcendental potential, I suppose. And he's known to improvise an orchestra. He had this extraordinary skill, and he had such an incredible respect by all the musicians. That's very rare. Very often musicians are very cynical about conductors, and it takes a very great conductor to earn that really sort of overriding respect, and Furtwängler did do that. And because the performers talk of his, they almost could read his mind. And they're the most extraordinary examples. I wonder if it'd be great to try and sort of somehow assemble something to flesh this topic out, but it wouldn't be easy. But there are recordings around of works on subsequent nights of the week, and they're entirely different performances played by the same orchestra and the same work. So Furtwängler he effectively improvised an orchestra. He would make a lot of sort of changes, but there's a deep logic to his interpretations, and there's a sense of musical freedom. He tried to break out of the shackles of really steadfast rhythm and whip-crack precision. He liked music to sort of have that oceanic quality. So it sort of can sound a bit loose in some ways, but very, very atmospheric. And he's got a cult following now. He really does. There's dozens and dozens of Furtwängler websites, and collectors go crazy over the few. Well, there are a lot of recordings. He made constantly recorded from the 20s right through to 1954 when he died. Yeah, I'd never seen a colour film of him. There's a number of films around, but not a colour film. And this turned up, and it is so extraordinary. It's incredible. So for a few minutes, unfortunately, you can't see the film on this test, but you can hear the wonderful music, and it's the Mozart Don Giovanni. Anyhow, that's my little rant about Furtwängler, and I hope you enjoy it. This is VK3SL. It's just walking onto the stage here. High resolution camera. Oh, I was caught short. That's all there is. Okay, that was Furtwängler, Wilhelm Furtwängler, conducting Mozart's Don Giovanni Overture from the Salzburg Festival in 1954. Colour footage, it's incredible to watch. Just reading about his chameleon-like interpretations and how he really sort of he seeked out, it's not the word, sook out. He was seeking the mystery in the music all the time. He tried to find something interesting, the sinews, the things that sort of were not quite right. And he celebrated music's mystery. And he was constantly probing and searching. And you get that sense in his interpretation. It's got a sort of a restlessness of sorts, but it's in the best sense of the word. It's something that makes music sort of constantly interesting. His interpretations leave you on the edge of your seat because they're not sort of eccentric for the sake of being eccentric, but rather they're sort of very holistically conceived. So anyhow, there we go. There was some Furtwängler, very little amount of Furtwängler playing Mozart, so that's quite rare in that sense too. But commend it to anyone if you want to have a look. Furtwängler conducting Mozart in colour. To say Furtwängler in colour, if you put that into the search engine, you'll see it. Yeah, and I hadn't seen it before, and amazing to think this great figure has been captured in excellent colour. It's like high res. So, pretty impressive. Okay, well, as we sort of move towards the final chapter, I thought, well, look, I might as well play a couple of the pieces that I've been rehearsing a bit this week. I've been involved with a big concert. It's going to be in Hamer Hall, and I'm tutoring, and it's quite exciting. It's a big orchestra. And yeah, they're playing Stuart Greenbaum's 90 Minutes Circling the Earth. Now, that's I knew Stuart very well. I went to uni with him, and he's now Professor of Composition at Melbourne Uni. And but he's quite prolific. He writes a lot of music, but one of these compositions is a fab piece called 90 Minutes Circling the Earth, written for orchestra. He wrote it in 1998. And it's a piece about the length of time that a satellite takes to circle the Earth. And so it starts in darkness, theoretically in darkness, and goes through to the daylight for a short period, and then comes full circle at the end. So it's sort of very evocative in that sense, and it's got lots of space sounds and interesting effects, and it's also quite very accessible music. So great writing, actually. So I thought I'd play it. It goes for 5 minutes. And we'll have a listen to Stuart Greenbaum and the Melbourne Symphony with 90 Minutes Circling the Earth. This is VK3SL. Yeah, we just heard the MSO play the Stuart Greenbaum's 90 Minutes Circling the Earth. So that's it's a great piece, fun to play. Whoa, we're not going to get advertisements on this. No, thank you very much, YouTube. I haven't got my updated YouTube yet, so I've got to watch out for those sneaky adverts. Yay, so 90 Minutes Circling the Earth. Yes, great piece. Fun to play. Lots of little rhythmic quirks about it, but that's it takes a bit of working out. Now, the other piece that sort of rings true is the Appian Way from Respighi's Pines of Rome. Now, it's interesting. For a long time, I always thought that Ravel's Bolero was the greatest crescendo in musical history. Now, it possibly is. It goes on and on. But after experiencing this piece, playing this piece, the Appian Way, this is the fourth movement from the Pines of Rome by Otto Respighi. And I seem to think that this may be. Now, the only problem with playing this is the start's incredibly quiet. In fact, on the score, I think it's quadruple piano. So, will the fail alarm come on? Maybe it will. Maybe you think there'll be some dead air for a little while the thing builds up. Maybe it's worthwhile switching onto the stream to hear the subtleties. But anyhow, we'll see how it goes. It takes a while for it to sort of start to heat up. But at the end, it is something truly spectacular. This is the Appian Way. So, let's have a look. All right, we'll just get this tuned up and we'll have a listen. We'll just tune the orchestra. Oh, I've got a frog in my throat. All right. So, yeah. All right. No problems. We'll kick off with this. Be prepared. I might push the mono button off. No, I'll keep it on, actually, because I think it just may sound a bit more solid with it on. This is VK3SL. I'm testing on 160 and 2 meters, and also the streaming service. You can find me there. Just look up my call sign on qrz.com and all that, and you'll find links. It's all there. A few people on the stream tonight. So anyhow, sit back and enjoy some of the Pines of Rome, the Appian Way. Okay, the truly exhilarating music of Otto Respighi and The Appian Way from the Pines of Rome. Yeah, it's a crescendo to behold. It's incredible. The forces live, it is just something out of this world. It's just a very visceral experience, to say the least, hearing all those brass. And the power of a full orchestra in flight like that is something that's it's one of those, incredible experiences in life, I think. Yeah, so it's a great piece. And of course, Respighi studied with Rimsky-Korsakov, who is probably the greatest orchestrator of all time, one of the greats anyhow, and Respighi certainly demonstrates his incredible skills orchestrating that music. All right, that's going to bring us up to the end, I think, everyone. I'm pretty tired tonight. And it's not terrible. Getting tired, worn out, worn to the bone. That's what happens being at the coalface. Don't get much. Yeah, anyhow, that's all right. Sometimes these programs pick me up. Sometimes they tire me out. Well, that last item did pick me up, but I don't think I'm going to go on for much longer. Now, I thought I'd finish with, mentioned in the post log last week, a piece of music that goes to heaven and back. This is a piece that I think is one of the greatest. Well, no, I'm going to say that. I always say that, don't I? I always talk about the greatest and the mostest and the bestest. Well, all I can say is this piece does it for me. And if I had to choose something to play at my funerale, I probably would choose this. At the moment I would, anyhow. I might change my mind next week. But it's one of my personal faves. And it is an extraordinary recording of Casals, Pablo Casals, the cellist, Alfred Cortot, the pianist, and Jacques Thibault, the violinist. They had a trio which they played together for about 30 years during the summer seasons and around their solo careers. And they made quite a few records in the 20s. They memorised all their repertoire, but there's something so remarkable about their performances and the way that they synergised, and incredible things happen here. I love Casals' stillness and his eloquence, and Cortot is just the most beautiful pianist, very spacious. And Thibault, well, something miraculous happens here. And I remember listening to this with one of my professors at uni, Chris Martin, and I listened to this together, and he just thought this was the most incredible thing. And it sort of, has that. I can understand why. There's a moment about halfway through where the violin just soars, and it's so radiant, so beautiful, that it defies description. Anyhow, that's all I'm going to say. I've got it out of my system now, folks. I've had my wax lyrical moment. You might think it's entirely different. You might think it's crap. And that's completely fine. This is my little indulgence, but I will play this to finish, and I won't back announce it, but I will come back up and have a listen on Channel D in case there's somebody there. So we go back to 1926. It's a historic recording, and we hear the Thibault Casals Cortot Trio, and they're playing the second movement from Schubert's B-flat major trio, I think it is. Anyhow, any more detail? No, 1928 it was recorded. And it's the B-flat major, the famous B-flat major piano trio, but we're just hearing the slow movement, and it's a nice way to finish off for today. So thank you for hanging around, thank you for listening, and next week I'll try and find something else that sort of, registers, and we'll see how it all transpires. And so feel free to come and talk afterwards, but otherwise I wish you all a very good week. This is VK3SL.
you.